Hey guys, it's Faye, and today I'm sharing the Zombiemancer build I've been theory crafting and planning to use as a league starter in the 3.4 Delve Path of Exile League. This is my take on a pretty vanilla build for the most part. There's only a couple quality of life uniques that are really convenient while leveling in even early maps. After that, you can choose to invest in this build or play an alt with the currency you've made. Necromancer got an indirect buff since more minion nodes have been added to the tree for Guardian Summoner synergies, and existing nodes have also been overhauled. Just like what the Witch does best, we're gonna take those Templar minion nodes and make them our own. Minion builds seem like a decent option for Delve. With them you can focus a bit more on your positioning in your minecart. It's worth noting that enemies cannot be killed in Deep Darkness, but since Convocation is now an instant skill, it's not really a huge issue. Also, it's frickin' Halloween soon! Flavor win! Gameplay footage is from an old Necromancer I had with a 5-link setup. Just decided to slam some red maps with Alex and go. Moving on, here's a quick list of the pros and cons of the build. You'll notice immediately it's a lot like the Trapper. There's lots of buttons, summoners have lots of buttons. It's league starter viable without uniques. 1 to 2, 1 to 3 quality of life ones work early on. You can dump currency into the build, stacking strength if you stick with it, so you can convert it to an endgame build. You can run reflect maps with no/minor problems. Come on, Necromancer, it's just good. Zombies are already tanky on the live servers, and the new nodes only make them tankier. Minion nodes got juiced! So for the cons, just the biggest cons I would like to mention here, it is super unique heavy if you choose to take it to endgame. You are going to find that capping resist is a major pain in the ass. You're probably going to have to use Purity of Elements. Until you can cap those, then you can use haste. Also, another annoyance, you have like no skill gem space because it's a summoner. That's what summoners do. I'm going to go over gear next. I'm using this as a league starter, so my requirement is that I don't need much to get to endgame. This build delivers in that department, but if you want to push the build as far as you can, start stacking your coffers because minion anything is going to be popular as hell with the new Guardian Summoner. I'm just going to mention 3 quality of life uniques and 1 threshold jewel. Are they required or else you can't play? No, but they will help immensely and might be a bit pricey with the hot minion meta. First off, Victoria's Charity. Combined with Necromantic Aegis, the shield is amazing and it has been for a long time. It gives your minions frenzy and power charges. This is one of those items that I'm planning on using as a best in slot piece, but expect this to be 2C+ at least initially because people are going to want this while leveling and in endgame. Second, we have the Baron. Since I wanted to use zombies, this is my item of choice. The most notable things here are that half of your strength is added to your minions, you get 1 maximum zombie per 300 strength, and at 1000 strength, zombies leech 2% of their damage to you as life. This is good even while leveling, even if your strength isn't up to par yet. It becomes beastly in endgame with strength stacking, which is the goal. Third, Arumvarax. This sword is purely a res stat stick. The max roll is 60% to all LE resists. Use this while leveling in order to be able to use haste, dump it in the endgame once you get amazing gear and don't need the res crutch. I'm planning on using only 1 Violent Dead Jewel, which you can get for free in Act 5. I did some thinking on this, and honestly, 100% slam uptime isn't really needed with the plethora of accuracy nodes added to the passive tree for minions. I feel like 1 will do the trick, and I wanted a free rare jewel for life, strength, and resistances. Next, endgame focus uniques. You don't need these for early leveling or early maps. Invest as you go if you want to get that 1000+ strength and dump currency into the character. The first unique to look for is Joffrey's Sanctuary. It's a good chess piece, and what we care most about is the energy shield per 5 strength in order to build a decent energy shield pool to put over mana. More on this later. Manganor's Vise is a fairly nice next step, and these gloves are usually quite cheap. The most important stat here is the strength. Consider grabbing a well-rolled pair of Alberun's Warpath next. These increase your strength by 18% with a perfect roll. Strength jewels are next, and they're gonna probably be a bit costly. Efficient training converts intelligence and its radius to strength. You'll want at least 2 of these for either side of the Scion pathing area. You'll want at least 1 bronze jewel. The most important thing for that jewel is making sure that it has a 6% strength roll. For the last jewel slot near Templar, you can use either another max roll brawn or an efficient training jewel. Use what increases your strength more. In my case, efficient training won out by a tiny amount, but I imagine these will be way more costly than brawn jewels. Next up, Ascendancy. This amulet is probably going to be the most expensive item if you want to kit this build out well into the endgame. Try to get the best rolled one you can, you'll need the strength. You can use Montrigule's Grasp when you have at least 900 strength and all the additional max zombie nodes in the tree. This one-handed mace makes it so your zombies are way more tanky, but reduces your max number of zombies by half. As always, look for one with high rolls. This is a major increase to zombie survivability and super endgame content. If you're feeling super spicy, the last time I played this build, I used Severed in Sleep, and even without the super pricey upgrade to United and Dream, it performed fairly well. As an additional bonus, the non-upgraded version provides about 10 to 20 to all attributes. Severed in Sleep also goes really well with the new Withering Touch support. More on that later. Another optional unique that I think would fit the build very nicely are the new Command of the Pit gloves. These gloves have good stats as is, and also have highly coveted Abyssal jewel slots. The accuracy boost is also quite nice as ghastly jewels or minion jewels. My main concern is missing the 100 strength from Mignord's Vise and how costly these will end up being. There's also the fact that you'd have to drop at least 1 support somewhere to be able to even support 1 Abyssal jewel. Lastly, in our scant rare slots, you want rings with resistances, strength, and life. Try to get at least 1 unset ring eventually and make room for an animated guardian gem. Use essences of fear if you can, but know that this is going to be costly trying to get the minion movement speed with the strength and the life and the resistances, so don't worry if you can't get one early on. A good heavy belt is also required. You'll want 75 to 90 strength total on it. Max life and resistances you need to shore up. As far as the animated guardian gear goes, survivability is pretty nice and damage increases are nice. Use Dying Breath, Leercast or Bringer of Rain, Southbound, Victorious Flight, and either Ambush Charge or Zondethis' Cassock. Zondethis? Man, look at that sweet light bonus for Delve. As usual, the passive tree will be located in the description below with leveling trees. I tend to focus on survivability with DPS. You could totally opt to drop some life nodes and get some more DPS ones if you prefer. Obviously, there's a lot of strength stacking and minion nodes. The best part of Path of Exile is tinkering with someone else's preferred build and learning from it, so if you have different preferences, don't be scared to experiment. I'll briefly cover Keystone picks next. This build uses 4 Keystones: Necromantic Aegis, Elemental Equilibrium, Mind Over Matter, and Eldritch Battery. Necromantic Aegis gives minions your equipped shields bonuses instead of you. This is what allows Victoria's Charity to give your minions frenzy and power charges. Elemental Equilibrium works for us, but not for minions. This means by using Orb of Storms we can proc the debuff on enemies so they lose 50% fire and cold resist. This is important because SRS inherently does fire damage, and we're using Hatred as an aura. Since minions can't proc Elemental Equilibrium, they're not going to mess up the DPS boost. Mind Over Matter is taken because it's a solid defensive pick and it makes it so you take some damage from your mana pool before hitting your life pool. This is important because of the next keystone. Eldritch Battery makes it so you spend energy shield before mana for skill costs, and it protects your mana instead of your life. Combined with Drop-Free Sanctuary, it makes it so you have a decent enough ES mana pool. You can use Energy Shield to cast instead of mana. This makes it so we can reserve nearly all of our mana for auras. In terms of Necromancer Ascendancy picks in order, it's pretty straightforward. First, Commander of Darkness. This buffs your auras for you, your party, and your minions. I'm taking this early to benefit from the 20% to all Ellie resist while affected by an aura. Next, Invoker. It's a pretty standard node. It's a shame that the Convocation cooldown recovery speed's no longer relevant since it's an instant skill now, but hopefully GGG will give it something in 3.4 on launch day to replace it. Even if they don't, it's a decent pathway to the next node. Fleshbinder is a super important node. You get physical damage reduction per zombie, 1%. The caustic ground on the death from zombies, whenever they die or if you summon over your maximum amount. Bigger AoE and cooldown for their slams, and 2 extra zombies. In a zombie build, this is the best node in the Ascendancy tree. I'm gonna grab Puppet Master last. Honestly, you could swap this with Commander of Darkness if you're rocking max resist by the time Act 10 shreds them one last time. It gives the best thing minion AI can have, which is movement speed. The duration and cast speed helps with SRS uptime. The vanilla minion damage is just nice. This build actually prefers the upgraded Lunaris Pantheon power for mapping. Preventing deadly chaining enemies is a very good idea. Chaining is super bad for summoners if you're newer to the game. Projectiles deal a ton more damage by chaining to your minions and then to you for what could be one-shots. If you're fighting more single target style, not mapping, or fighting a harder boss without a million adds that can chain, the Brine King is still a solid pick to help prevent stuns. Since this is still a life build at its core, take Rizlatha as your minor Pantheon power. It's still just one of the best you can pick since it recharges your life flasks if you haven't used them in a while, and the upgrade version is nice for the increased life recovery from flasks while on low life. Next, the gem setups for the build. The only concern I have is where Withering Touch ends up as a support. By all means, it should work for minions like other attack supports already do. It might shuffle around a bit, but I expect it's going to replace melee physical damage currently. Real quick, Withering Touch is a new support gem in 3.4 Delve. Your minions will have a 25% chance to inflict Wither stacks on hit with a maximum of 15 stacks on any one enemy. Each stack gives a 6% debuff to their chaos res. Your minions also gain a portion of their physical damage as extra chaos damage, which will shred through enemy energy shields and help clear speed. The cost to ground caused by the Fleshbinder Ascendancy node on death syncs up nicely with this. As mentioned earlier, Severed in Sleep becomes pretty nice with this as it synergizes with its poisoning abilities. Moving on, let's go over the gem links. These may change in the Google Doc, but they're pretty solid at the moment. Ray Zombie will be linked to the following in the Baron Helm: Minion Damage, Multi-Strike, and Withering Touch. Summon Raging Spirits will be linked to the following: Minion Damage, Multi-Strike, Melee Splash, Withering Touch, and Empower. A level 3 Empower is going to be expensive. You can use melee physical damage instead if you don't want to invest a lot of currency into the build and are using a tabula. Next up, movement. I'm still opting for shield charge despite the nerfs since only attack skills can proc the defensive Fortify buff. If the new consecrated charge skill is decent and works with Fortify, and I think it should, then try that instead of shield charge. Whichever you choose, it's going to be linked to the following: Fortify and faster attacks. Utility skills in one aura will be on the other 3 link in the shield slot. These consist of the following: Flesh Offering, Convocation, Ball Haste, or Purity of Elements. Maxing elemental resist is essential. If you can't max your resistances and want to use something besides Arumvarax, use Purity of Elements. You want to use haste eventually, but it's going to take some time to get there. More auras and utility are next. Hatred will be linked to Generosity in order to increase its effect on your minions, and your party's not going to complain about also getting a boosted Hatred aura. Desecrate is needed for convenient zombie resummoning and using your offering skill. Orb of Storms is here to proc Elemental Equilibrium. You only really need on big single target. In all honesty, I don't usually use cast when damage taken setups for my summoners, but this build should be able to support a maxed out one and offers some more survivability. If you want to rock Spectres instead, go for it. Since I'll be using cast when damage taken, I'll link it to the following: Immortal Call and Summon Stone Golem. Clarity is here since I didn't want to autocast Animate Guardian. Clarity provides ES regen since it takes over your mana pool. Lastly, in an unset ring, use Animated Guardian. I mentioned the gear I plan on animating for this skill in the Unique section early in the video. While leveling, don't fret about your zombies dying quickly. It's pretty standard early on. SRS is a great leveling skill, and the new Holy Relic skill might help your zombies survive a bit better. Keep an eye out for required gems to unlock as you progress. Overall, this build should be a good league start and carry you to acquiring your initial league currency, which you can either put into this build or fund an alternate character with. If you decide to pour your currency into this character, you can push it even further with bossing at a decently steep cost involving heavy strength stacking. I have information about the build in the Google document below for easy reference, and also timestamps to each part of the guide in the description. I'll update the Google Doc if any info changes. If you have any questions about the build, feel free to ask. If you're new to Path of Exile, feel free to ask general questions as well. More people joining the game is always a great thing. If this helped you out, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. Helps out a lot, and I try to have a build video for the start of each new PoE league. Thank you so much for watching, good luck in Delve League, and until next time.